Hi guys, welcome to this video about the question what you can do when your computer is slow, at least slower than you would expect based on what you have built in, like CPU, amount of RAM, your hard disk, whatsoever. I mean, usually you have an idea how fast it should be, how good applications should perform, and when it's much below, then there are actually two reasons for that. One is software, and the number two, of course, is hardware. So how to find out? My recommendation is, if you go for the software first, you can invoke the task manager. You hit the Windows key, type task, and then you have the task manager. You can click on that and you get an idea what's going on your PC. You can sort this by CPU, for example. You see how much CPU is burned currently from which applications. You get an idea which application is consuming how much CPU, also memory. Memory is also very important. Some applications consume a lot of memory and then they can clog your system. Of course, like me, if you have open 73 tasks, I mean, that's a lot, and that's consuming a lot of CPU, and that's not the problem of Chrome, but that's actually my problem. I have to finish work and close some tabs again. But here I cannot see something crazy. There's not a single application which is using 10, 20, 30% or whatsoever, and it does not look like there's a problem. But the thing is, here the CPU consumption is changing really quickly, and it's difficult to look at it. So we get a better impression when we go to performance, click on open resource monitor, and here we can click on average CPU, and yeah, we click 2 times, and then we have the thing on top which is on average consuming most CPU. So we have a little bit a more reliable picture here, and it's not changing every or 10 times a second or whatsoever. Also here we cannot see something crazy. We can also check here CPU and everything, all the different CPUs. We can check the memory consumption as well, disk, and so on. Can try to see if there is some kind of bottleneck here, some task which is consumption, everything, all the network, all the disk, all the memory, all the CPU, whatsoever. So here there's actually nothing to see. And if we still have the impression that there is something wrong, we have to look at the hardware, and this is how we can do that. I mean, there are of course a lot of different ways to do that. One really simple way is to download a test program, and this is my personal recommendation, userbenchmark.com. It's testing almost all components of your computer, comparing them to similar devices. I mean, similar CPU, similar storage, similar whatsoever, and it's telling you if it's performing under average or at average or above average, and then you can easily see where the problem is. So you can download that, and yeah, just click on that, download, and then you start it. There's no installation needed, just download and start it. So here I have it already. We click on it, and there are, I mean, it will test everything. As you can see here, there's not even a choice to exclude something. We just click on run, and it starts to test all the components. It starts with the CPU, GPU, it tests the RAM, it will test the hard disks and everything. It takes A couple of minutes. I mean, with my system, I think it took me about 5 minutes or so, but it's definitely worth to do the test and see the result and compare to other systems. So we are here at about, yeah, I would say 2 or 3 minutes, and now it's starting to create some really interesting graphics. And yeah, it's sometimes fun to watch. Just give it a couple of minutes and it will finish pretty soon. Again, I would assume it's about 5 minutes or so in total. So as you can see now, the program has ended. The only thing which we can do is close, and it will automatically invoke a website where you see the performance status, and you have green and yellow and red, and you have also some values for gaming, desktop, work, workstation, work, and so on. And it will describe you really good things in a good way, how your system is performing. Here you have also warnings when you have a lot of background CPU. I mean, that CPU which was not caused by the testing program, but it's just something which is running in the back, like if you left open a browser or other things, virus scanner whatsoever. And of course that could affect a little bit the testing. So make sure whenever you see something like that, sometimes even higher, you try to reduce the background CPU, close all the programs, and run the test again. So this is highly recommended. Make sure that you get a clean testing and not a testing which is affected by other programs. So you can go down and you see especially two values for every component. Let's see, here we have the processor. You can see how it is performing against peers. I mean, exactly same core, same CPU, but implemented in other systems. So when you are above 50%, that's actually good. I would say, yeah, your system is more or less okay. I mean, it can always perform a little bit better, but if it's in the red here, that's not good. So here we have a 59 percentile, which is good. Here not so great. Obviously the GeForce 980M has problems, and I know it has overheating problems. That could be a problem here. Then the SSD is not so good performing. So you can see here it is actually very badly performing compared to exact same thing in other systems, but it is still actually a good value when it comes to drives. I mean, compared to normal hard disk drives, it's still very fast, but you can see it had only 1100 megabytes per second, and it actually could do 3400. So it is actually performing not so good compared to other implementations. What you sometimes have, like with all the drives, that's important. All the drives can have some bad read-write errors, and it can heavily slow down your system. I had this in a previous test with, I think this one here, with this drive. It says very poor, but actually regarding, because it's such an old drive, it cannot go faster, so it's actually performing good at the moment, but it is not good. So sometimes it's also good to just run this test a couple of times to see if you find problems. And sometimes when you find problems, or the program finds problems, it can suggest some things to do, how to configure the parts differently, upgrade BIOS. If you're having problems with a hard disk drive, I can highly recommend to check another program. That's the Crystal Disk Info, something like that. I will put down all the links for all the needed programs into the description so you can check it out, and you don't have to write everything down. Crystal Disk Info takes some time to start. You can see here's my first drive, but you can select different drives here. From the menu, go to disk, and then you see all your disks. You see the new SSD, of course, is good. The old HDD also good. And here we have the external hard drive, which I was telling you about. And this has a lot of warnings. It has some errors, and it is highly advised to move everything away from that hard disk drive, which you want to be safe. That's really important. It's a really old one. It has obviously a lot of problems, and it's time to replace it. And something like that with so many errors can definitely slow down your whole system. And we are getting already to the last point, and that's overheating. A lot of systems, especially laptops, create overheating problems, but of course it can also happen with normal systems, and then it's really good if you check the temperature. There are a lot of different tools. I'll add a few links into the description. What I highly recommend is this Intel Extreme Tuning utility. That's a really famous thing, especially if you have, of course, an Intel CPU. When you go down here, you have to find your system, and then you can download the thing, and you will find if it is throttling down because of overheating. That can happen a lot when your system is overheating, or at least the CPU is overheating. I mean, it doesn't have to be the whole system. Sometimes the thermal paste is old, and then only the CPU is overheating, and it just needs the replacement of the thermal paste. Or if you are not familiar with that, you can of course buy a new CPU. It is even highly possible that your system has been collecting dust in some of the fans or all of the fans. There are sometimes housing fans, especially with the desktops, and you have here also these specific fans in laptops, and they are not accessible from outside. They are fully covered sometimes here, and the dust is collected here. Sometimes laptop design is good, so you can suck it up with a normal vacuum from outside, so like from here, but in this system it's not possible. It was fully covered, and there was a lot of dust around here. Unfortunately, the quality is not so good, but I think you get an impression about that. I mean, this is even after vacuuming, and before there was much more dust here collected in these fans, and also this can cause a lot of overheating problems. So as you can see, there are many possible reasons why your system is slowing down. It can be other software, it can be hardware, it can be just overheating, it can be old hard disk drive. There are many different causes, and it sometimes needs a little bit of patience. Sometimes you find the reason fast, sometimes you have it needs more time, but yeah, still I hope I was able to help you a little bit with that. If you have any questions or comments, just write to the comment section below, and I'm always happy to talk about these things. And if you liked the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.